Thank you.
Nice try.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, Chairman Milday, board members, and Mr. Foley. Thank you for the opportunity to present the school board approved funding request to you at your monthly meeting. For those watching now or in the future, the school board normally requests and is permitted the opportunity to present at the 7 o'clock session to allow more citizens to actually hear what we have to say and see this presentation. However, as you all know, Mother Nature last week, her decision to hopefully give us the final winter blast necessitated the move of our meeting from last week to this week, so we aren't available to present at 7 o'clock. But I just wanted to make sure for anybody watching, we would have done 7 o'clock. However, we will be across the street meeting. It's our intent to provide a copy of this video presentation on our budget section of our school board website to try and make sure that we get the information out. Although the specifics of the school board's funding request are important, to me, one of the most important things that changed this year was the process. First, the school board's use of the Munis financial system and the type of zero-based budgeting that resulted in what I consider the school board budget and accompanying analysis that's never been seen before in Stafford County. I'd like to personally thank Dr. Benson, and Mr. Fulmer is also here from our finance staff and his team for this great, great accomplishment. I'm thrilled that we are there. And then the other part of the process, second, last Wednesday, both our boards, as you know, met and talked about the school budget and the bigger picture in the county. This has not occurred for at least 4 years, that in my memory at least. This opportunity to share information and discuss items lays the groundwork for future and continued cooperation, and more importantly, communication between the boards. I'd like to thank Mr. Hirons and Ms. Maurer for their planning of this productive evening. As I've said, we may not always agree, but we can discuss and plan in a cooperative manner, since we should always agree that we have the best interests of Stafford County and its citizens as our goal. Last night, I attended the Joint School Working Committee and watched, and there was discussion about shared services, charters, joint CIP. These cooperation, discussion, and communication processes are a trend I hope we will continue. Now, to get to the guts, as I call it, to hit the highlights of the school board's funding request. I'm going to hit some highlights. So the FY18 budget request builds on this success that we've had and focuses on continued investment in a high-quality workforce, and it begins the reinvention of the instruction delivery model to our students, designed to prepare them for the future. The school board is requesting a 5.7 increase in funding. A high-quality workforce is a requirement for the important task of educating and preparing our students for the future, and 83.5% of this request is dedicated to human capital investment. This year, as you know, all school systems had to comply with the accelerated VRS schedule, which was passed by the General Assembly, which resulted in an extra $1.7 million that we had to put in our budget that should have been $800,000. This request recognizes, our funding request recognizes that Stafford County is growing, somewhere around the 1.5%. We added 500 students last year. We are projecting about 700 for FY18. This request reflects that we have to plan for those students, and with new teaching positions and building space. The school board's pleased to finally begin to provide a market-based compensation model for our bus drivers, our monitors, paraprofessionals, and nurses. That's something that's been on our schedule for a long time. The board is holding firm to the class size reduction initiative we implemented last year at the elementary school level. We are recognizing our changing student body and the compliance with federal and state requirements to address these needs as part of our request. And finally, like I said, one of the most important things, a commitment to the creation of a Stafford County curriculum and investment in the professional development of our workforce is going to reap large benefits for every child in Stafford County. That makes me very excited. So
$15.5 million. And as Ms. Hazard stated, it's a 5.74% increase. It's using the General Assembly's budget, which has a little additional funds in terms of support for compensation, about $800,000 increase in compensation lines from the state, and another $900,000 increase in lottery proceeds. And it also represents a $2 million increase in local funding, which is about $580,000 more than we were projecting at the time that I made the request of the school board, which leaves us a funding gap that's just short of $6 million. We are proposing an increase in FTEs of 67.5. A fairly large number of those positions have to do with support for special needs students throughout the division. In other words, those are not nice-to-do things. They are things that we are obligated to do in ensuring that all of our students have an appropriate education, as well as some other areas that we would like to bring some attention to at the division level related to our implementation of our new financial management system, as well as support for our employees in the increasingly complicated world of Virginia retirement system. We do continue to focus on 5 primary areas in terms of total rewards. We recognize that retaining and keeping good folks in our division is not just about compensation, but also benefits work-life recognition and professional development.
What is an accountability specialist? Previous slide.
We added, it's in our Office of Assessment, and it has to do with looking at achievement within the division and whether or not we're delivering the goods on programs that we've implemented.
So like somebody who's...
Assisting us with program review and evaluation and making sure that we are delivering what programs set out to deliver at the time that they were put into place.
The education programs or the strategic plans for head office?
Well, initially, we're looking at our educational programs, but we're also looking at components that are tied to the strategic plan.
Okay.
But we've implemented a number of programs in the last 15 years, and part of what we're doing is a systematic review of those programs and making sure that we're delivering the outcomes that were identified as a part of implementation for those programs.
And hopefully not double serving students with similar programs.
No, and our intent is that if there are efficiencies that we might be able to capture, or if there are programs that are not delivering what we intended them to deliver, that we make modifications in those programs, or in some cases, if there's a duplication of opportunities, then we may be looking at trying to create some savings in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
while we're on that page, Dr. Down, what is a world language cultural facilitator?
So we have a position for most content areas at the division level, whether they're supervisors or coordinators, so you might have mathematics and social studies. One area that we have not identified resources that are targeted for just that particular area have to do with access to world languages and additional support for English language learners throughout the division, and that's what that position would be for.
How about one more? That last one.
Certainly.
The common ERP system analyst.
So that is our enterprise resource planning system, that otherwise known as MUNIS, that is both the financial side of what we do as well as the HR side of what we do. We are in the process of moving toward producing checks for the first time for compensation, which will be the last part of the financial management piece of it. But then there's a whole section of HR support that will come along with that. We originally had written the position into the contract for putting the product in place. We have about 6 months to go. We realize that moving forward, we're going to need some additional support in that area, so we'd like that position to continue if possible. Any other questions on this particular slide?
Any other questions? Nope.
Thank you. So in terms of total rewards, we recognize that compensation is one area, and we want to be competitive within our market, but there's more to attracting and retaining great employees. We believe that benefits is a big part of that. We made some great strides in the last year by jointly bidding health insurance and improving our position in that area for our employees. Work life is also important, how people feel about coming to work every day and whether or not they feel like they have an opportunity to contribute to what is going on in their workplace is another important factor. Recognition, just telling people that they're doing a good job, and then giving folks an opportunity to grow professionally is also very important. We don't want folks to lose sight of what it really costs us to have employees within the division, and so there are pieces that kind of go unseen at times. For example, if we look at the first first graphic here, we have a salary for a 10-month teacher of $46,184. When we add a master supplement, our insurance, health benefits, access to sick leave, you'll see that our total cost ends up at about $75,000. And that's important for folks to understand, that a lot of times we hear folks say that at times the salary perhaps doesn't reflect how much they perceived as being valued. We do value our employees, but there are lots of ways that we value our employees, and providing this full package is part of that. We have improved our position with teacher compensation over the years. 3 years ago, our entry-level salaries for teachers were well below our comparison market. The graph that we're showing here represents Stafford with a blue diamond, and you can see that we have moved into the market. We are at or above the market by the time we get to 9-year, median of the market, by the time we get to 9 years of service. And then you can see very clearly as we move to 20 years and above, there are only 2 divisions that we're not doing better than, and that is Henrico, and I'm sorry, not Henrico, Loudoun and Prince William. And those couple of divisions present a challenge for us. They receive a cost to compete from the Commonwealth. We get a small portion of that, but it's difficult for us to hit those targets. So we want to work on that full package for the school system that says, hey, you know what, we're a great place to come and work.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Snelling's there, Ms. Sellers.
Could you take just a moment to explain cost to compete? We get a lot of questions on that, and I'm not sure everybody understands. It's
So there's a
understandable,
subsidy that Northern Virginia school divisions have access to that allow them to improve their position in terms of compensation for teacher and some other SOQ-funded positions. Divisions across the Commonwealth have been advocating to our legislative folks to expand access to those resources as we move down the 95 corridor. It's easier and easier for folks to jump on that and get to a division that potentially has a higher salary. Stafford has access to 25% of what the Northern Virginia divisions have access to. So if we were looking to level the playing field, and we certainly do compete with divisions to the north, it would be great to have access to some additional support from the state. And I said this at an earlier presentation, I do feel like the state is not fulfilling their obligation to schools across the Commonwealth in meeting their support for funding of SOQ positions and positions that are not in the SOQ. For example, nurses. We're very fortunate to have nurses in all of our schools. I think it would be very difficult to provide the level of service and support that we need to in our schools without those kinds of positions. We don't get any additional support from the Commonwealth for those positions.
So the cost of compete, that goes directly to the teacher salary in Northern Virginia?
Yes, sir.
It does, and that's Prince William North, correct?
And I'm not sure where the boundaries are, the other divisions,
Okay.
that and how far down that goes. But we do have access to a portion of it, just
Right.
not to the same degree.
Okay, thank you.
When you're talking about your compensation model or the market-based, where, are you doing teachers this year too, to bring their salaries up, or are we just focusing on?
At this point, the board has included an additional $250,000 in market enhancement scale enhancement for teachers. That'll impact teachers that have 9 years or less of service with us.
So 9 years or less, okay. And so you're doing them in chunks, is that my understanding?
So what we do is every year we're looking at how the market has moved in our 9 adopted school divisions, and then we're computing what the median of that market is, and then we're looking to see how far out of the market we are. For positions that are out of the market, we're identifying a certain amount of money, in this case, moving forward, if the board should continue to support that, $250,000 that is distributed in a manner across those years of service that are out of market. The larger the delta with the market, the larger the increase folks see. We had hoped that in 3 years' time we would be at the median of the market. We would have to put in about a total, we'd have to put in probably another $750,000 to get to the median market on top of the $250,000 that we're proposing in this funding request.
So how many teachers does that impact? The 9 years and below?
I don't have the distribution, but we certainly can get that and provide it to the board. I would also like to point out that this is these are bachelor degree salaries. These are the base salaries. We have about 800 teachers in the division that are bachelor's degrees, and have bachelor's degrees. About 1,100 have master's degrees. And we've included those supplements at the bottom of the graph. Okay. So in the area of compensation and benefits, where are these dollars going? We want to maintain that additional compensation that teachers received last year as a result of the published scale that was in an error. That's approximately $1.1 million. We want to extend 1% to non-teacher scales to kind of play catch up for them. Do an additional 1% to all employees, so that we effectively over 2 years provide a 2% increase minimally for all of our employees, which would be in line with what the county administrator has proposed to do for county employees. We've identified approximately $1 million to go into scale enhancement to be spread across the scales where we have done our analysis. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, we're targeting at this point about $250,000 to teachers. I'm going to talk a little bit more about where the rest of that is going, more specifically bus drivers next. We have a $2.5 million increase in VRS, and then we have a very small merit pool that we intend to start for next year that will target our maintenance and technology employees that have moved to a pay band model in this current year, and an evaluation system that will reward folks for their level of performance. So with our bus drivers, let's talk a little bit about our bus drivers. We have a couple of concerns with bus drivers. One is that we're understaffed by about 20 drivers, and that creates some challenges for us. Particularly when we have folks leave us after spending a relatively short period of time. And what we have on this chart is a little bit of an analysis of folks, bus drivers, that have left us after the first, second, and third, fourth year. And you can see the majority of folks that are leaving us in that time frame. That's the part of our scale that is really out of market. Years 1 through 6 does not compare very well with our comparison divisions. Matter of fact, we are second to the bottom. These hourly rates have been adjusted a little bit for a cost of living. We didn't do that with all of the scales. We did do it with this scale and some of our other entry-level scales, just because they're among folks in the division that are making the smallest amount of money. So what we're proposing is to move our drivers into a pay band model. First-year drivers would be on pay band A01. Successful completion of the first year, as well as completing the driver training, defensive driving, and behavior management, would cause folks to go into pay band 2. We think that will be an incentive for folks, such that we will not see as much turnover between first and second year. And then our lead bus drivers and trainers would be in pay band A03. We've also implemented an attendance incentive for bus drivers and monitors as well. And drivers can get an additional $10 a day for every day in the month if they do not call out during the course of the month. There are exceptions to that. We have a challenge with folks that call out, not come to work for whatever reason. We're already understaffed, and that creates a challenge for us in terms of getting our students to and from school in a timely manner, in many cases requiring double bus runs. I'm pleased to report that initiative is having a positive impact. And if you look at the absenteeism that we've had in the Department for Drivers, comparing this year since implementation of the model to last year, we're seeing significant improvement. And so what the board is proposing at this point is the column that has the $250,000 at the top. We estimate it would cost us almost $370,000 to bring all of our bus drivers into the market. The $370,000 creates some challenges with compression. We're asking the board to consider the $250,000 increase. It improves a large number of drivers in terms of their hourly rates, but it also causes less compression. And then there'll be a chance for the merit pay model to work its way in, and we think improve some differentiation between folks that have varied years of experience. I did want to share just a couple of points from our climate survey. We started doing climate surveying 2 years ago. This was our third year. We've had significant improvement. in terms of how our workforce feels about coming to work and working with leadership. And again, we think that's an important part of the full package, why folks want to work in Stafford County Public Schools more specifically. We are proposing to put some more funds into professional development. That's an area that has been cut over the years, and again, it's part of our retention strategy. We're going to be running our first Teaching and Learning Summit this June with savings in the current fiscal year, and that's the work that the chairman alluded to regarding curriculum and expectations for students across the division as a whole. And then additional expenditure considerations, replacement cycles was on the priority list for the board. We've incorporated that to a fair degree in the funding request, some of it by redirection of existing funds. We've added an additional 5 buses. We think 15 buses is about the number that we need to replace on an annual basis in order to have a reliable replacement cycle, which is 5 more than what were in there previously. We've provided some differentiation in staffing based upon size of school in the front office, not in terms of FTEs, but access to funds for hourly support. We're looking to add 5 educational diagnosticians to help with our special education populations. Those are positions that in some cases are being shared between schools. We've redirected some savings. We've budgeted salary attrition lapse of about $1 million and operational savings of $1.9 million, and so that's different for us as an organization. We've had a previous budget model where we've kind of added to where we were in the previous year. This year we took a look at what those projected expenditures would be and available revenue, realizing that there were savings to be had there, and so we have capitalized on those in this funding request. We have $1 million of unfunded contingency that is there in the event that additional revenue is made available to us, such that we would not have to come to the supervisors, ask for appropriation. Because we are cutting it close in terms of projected expenses for next year, we do have a funded contingency of $500,000, and in a $280 million plus budget, that's still a fairly narrow margin. One of the things that's missing from this funding request are funds to help with cash capital improvements. I have a list from Mr. Horan that totals almost $6 million. We've identified approximately $2 million that we think we're going to have in additional savings as we progress toward the end of the year, and what we are proposing to the school board is that we fund about a third of those projects with savings in the current fiscal year. And this sheet is very hard to see for the public. I know board members have had access to this spreadsheet. This is kind of where our major increases are across the division. We've begun to identify some of the compliance must-dos. There are still some items that need to be identified there. You can see some of the places that we've captured potential savings as well as what we project as revenue. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I complete my presentation of the school board's approved funding request.
Again, thank you very much. Any questions or comments, Mr. Snellings?
Just a quick comment, don't forget April 8th, Stafford Hospital 5K.
Will not
Thank
forget.
you very much, Mr. Snellings. Ms. Baumke?
And I forgot to ask this the other day. Do we have any expenses in the budget for OPEB this year? No. Okay.
Do not.
Thank you.
All right. Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair.
Oh, Mrs. Sellers. Ms. Sellers.
I said it at the joint meeting, I'll say it again. You guys have put a lot of work into this. Thank you. This is the first time that we can actually have these discussions and look at these and ask questions about what does a world language person do? What are they doing in the system? Because the schools have just not provided a budget that looks like this before. And it speaks to your leadership, it speaks to your hard work, it speaks to your staff. And after the past few years, I think, you guys deserve a little pat on the back for the finances, because it's been a rough few years for the school division. So thank you. I don't know how we close that gap right away, but it's at least nice to be able to start with, let's figure out what we can have discussions on. So thank you, guys.
Correct. This is the second time the board has heard this, and the first time it was a much more relaxed atmosphere at a table across and next to one another, and there were a lot more questions, a lot more exchange of information. And as it was said there, the whole board, no one disagreed when several of us said this is easily the best budget we've ever seen in at least my 12 years, or almost 12 years from the school board. So thank you again. Thank you, school board. And with that, we really are going to go to public hearing.